PDGA, new rules. So this was announced on Staggered Stance yesterday. So the PDGA decided basically to go to podcasts first to announce the new rules. And then on Wednesday, tomorrow, they're going to actually put out the typical, like, these are the rule proposal post article. So next week we'll have the, like, in-depth because we can actually read it. We'll also get Trevor's reaction next week. But I wanted to at least talk about these. I found out about this late last night. It was like 9:40. So again, shout out Disc Golf World. I just watched the Disc Golf World's breakdown of the Robert Leonard interview. So what we're going to talk about here, I believe these are Pro Tour only rules, if I've read it correctly. Next week, again, we'll have the full PDGA article. But first thing to note, props to the PDGA. There is actually going to be now rules that apply to Elite Series and Majors.
Okay.
And then rules that apply to your everyday C tiers and stuff. So you'll have like your PDGA rules, and then the Elite Series can have rules because they're playing, it's the same game, but on a different scale. So there's things that just apply differently there. So I don't know if that's all of these I'm going to talk about, but some of them will. That'll be broken down next week better once we have the actual document where we can actually read through it all. So that'll be next week. We'll go over it a little bit more. So this is what I pulled from the Disc Golf World's breakdown of the Staggered Stance interview. So if you want to go listen to Robert Leonard on Staggered Stance, that came out on Monday. You can watch that. He said he's going on a few other podcasts. I don't know which ones. I wish he was going on Tour Life because I would love to see him talk to Brody and Brody break down some of these rules because I don't think Brody's going to like a lot of them. So I'd like to have heard the PDGA's defense, but I think it seemed like they were working with the Pro Tour Player Council, and Yuli's on the Pro Tour Player Council, so at least there will be some type of representative on Tour Life tonight. Mm-hmm. But I would have loved for the PDGA to have come on Tour Life, but unfortunately they didn't reach out. So that sucks, but it is what it is. So we'll have the full thing next week, but these are the three main rules to talk through here. First, the PDGA, these are all proposals, so these are not fully in. This is what they do every year is they propose new rules now. They'll implement new rules at the end of the year. So these are the proposal rules. First off, they're proposing to remove the thrower vote on group determination calls. So this is like missed mandos, is a disc inbounds or out of bounds, where did a disc cross, so on and so forth. So the thought process here is right now you basically have 4 people on a card. And how the rule states is every person gets a vote. If the vote splits, then there's the benefit of the doubt rule that's supposed to apply and say, well, since the vote split, benefit of the doubt goes to the player, so the player gets the ruling. Mm-hmm. That's how those rules are supposed to work. Right now, there's confusion with the benefit of the doubt rule of, oh, this call is too close for me to call. I don't know. Benefit of the doubt, the player, it gets in. It's like, no, that's not how, and we've talked about that before in this podcast. That's not how the benefit of the doubt works. There is no call that's too close to call. You have to make a vote, and then if it's split 2 and 2, that's where benefit of the doubt comes into play. Okay. So this is an attempt to remove that confusion, and remove the possibility of ties by removing the player's vote. So if you throw a disc OB, and we're trying to decide if it's inbounds or out of bounds, you're obviously going to vote inbounds if you think it possibly is, because why wouldn't you? You're biased. Connor's always biased. No, the player looking at it is always going to be biased. So it removes that vote. The other 3 players on the card are the ones that have votes. I think you can still make an argument of why you think it's inbounds. It's just your vote doesn't matter. So the other 3 of us
I'm actually not biased. I would have loved to have thrown that shot, but I was out of town, so I had Trevor throw the shot for me.
That makes sense.
Thank you, Trevor, for your creative throwing.
And within this, Robert Leonard also wanted to like remind everyone that basically other players can't say, oh, I don't know where it crossed, I didn't see it, because that's a courtesy violation. It's a reminder that you have to watch everyone's, that's been a PDGA rule forever, you have to watch everyone's throw on your card. That's just part of the game. Okay. So it's a reminder that like there is no, oh, I don't know where it crossed, I didn't see it, that you can immediately get a courtesy violation for that. So
dang.
This one, I don't know how I feel about it.
You better be watching.
Yeah. That's always been a rule. It's just never enforced.
It's never really been voiced.
Yeah. That's the problem with most of these. It's like you can write new rules in however you want. It just isn't going to be called.
Yeah.
Because like that's been a rule forever. It's just never called. So I don't know how I feel about this one because like the spirit of the game, quote unquote, golf's a gentleman's game, right? Like you are supposed to walk up and make like just call it like you see it. It's supposed to be unbiased. You're supposed to call yourself on foot faults if you foot fault. You're supposed to what if you walk up to your lie and accidentally kick your disc when you're looking at it? You're supposed to let the card know, hey, I moved my disc, and like everyone, like that's how disc golf's supposed to work. That's how golf's supposed to work. So removing the player's vote on that, like, I don't know I don't know how I feel about it. I think it's rather inconsequential. I do think it's kind of weird though, because now you are putting your fate like fully in other people's hands, as far as like there might be a situation where the disc is partially in bounds and there's two people in second, one stroke behind you.
Now they're biased as
and
well.
now they're biased against
just
you.
As biased.
And they're like, well, I want that disc to be out of bounds, you know? And so it just removes one more chance of seeing it. So I don't know.
True. If you're removing the player, the thrower's vote, because of bias, it's kind of ridiculous, because if everybody else is on the card with them, that means they're direct competitors to them, so they're also going to be biased.
I think
because of that, I'm not sure it makes much sense.
I think that one of the main goals is to get it where there's only 3, so there can't be a tie now because of the confusion of the benefit of the doubt rule. So like from that standpoint, yes, that makes sense. Let's have only 3 votes, because then the whole benefit of the doubt rule can actually, like, you can't use it anymore. So that's fine. But I don't know. This one's kind of like, it's neither here nor there. I don't know how I feel about it. Basically, most people are thinking.
But if it goes to all the people who are your competitors, now there's only bias on one side.
Well, but if all 3 of them vote against you, it doesn't matter anyways. Typically.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
that's true.
But normally it's just one person has to agree with you, and then it's 2-2, and then benefit goes to the player.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It is what it is. Most people think this is in response to the Adam James Waco call, when like everyone could see he was out of bounds, but they called him in. This also would remedy the Holland Hanley throw pink situation, when everyone claims that she was a cheater because she never crossed in bounds, but she went up and took a lie as if she did and went on to win that tournament. Only Holland knows if she cheated, but this would also, she wouldn't have a say in that either, of like where she crossed. So that's kind of what it's remedying. Is it something worth remedying? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think it's a little weird, but it's kind of I don't think there's any perfect solution to it. Yeah.
Now these next 2 are attacking time violations, and I think these both come from a good heart and are just wrong to a certain extent. So this first one they're calling the 30-45-30. So essentially you have 30 seconds to throw. Typically you have 30 seconds to throw anytime you throw. Now you have 30 seconds to throw from the tee, from a drop zone, or if you're inside of 20 meters. So if you're putting or you're throwing from a teeing surface, you have 30 seconds.
Okay.
Any other throw, you have 45 seconds now.
Okay.
So when you're in a fairway, when you're scrambling,
because they're probably taking into account clearing your.
They're basically So basically, the logic behind this was, when the rule was originally written, disc golf was a mainly par 3 sport. So you were throwing off the tee, and then you were throwing a quick approach shot, or you had a putt. So like you only needed 30 seconds. So now there's more approach shots and scramble shots, so you might need some more time. Let's give the players more time in the fairway, 45 seconds. So I think that what's interesting is I think the combination of 1 and 2 actually is going to slow pace of play slightly, because basically what they're saying here is they're also reiterating like your time clock starts basically as soon as you have discovered where your lie is and it's your turn. Okay. So if you've thrown, it is now my turn to throw. I have found my lie. My 45 seconds has started. Well, because I have to watch your shot so much now, which you always have, you're always supposed to, but because of that rule in the PDGA rule book, it encourages the play to be basically, we all stand behind Connor throws. Now we walk over to Hunter's shot. We all stand behind Hunter throws. Now we all walk over to Trevor's shot. We all stand behind Trevor throws. Yeah. Versus, which, in that case, basically you're going to have 45 seconds, 45 seconds, 45 seconds, assuming everyone took their time. Yeah. Took their full time. Versus Connor's throwing, I'm now looking at my lie, figuring out what I want to do, what line I want to hit, whatever, while Trevor's looking at his. So as soon as Connor throws and I see his disc go and land, okay, now I'm ready to go ahead and throw. I've already used probably 15 to 20 seconds of my 45. Yeah. So now I just have the throw to execute. Yeah. And then the same for Trevor. Trevor's now had probably a minute to look at his lie, figure it out. Okay, Hunter's shot goes, it's my turn, I'm ready to go. Boom, that's going to be way faster. So anyways, that I think that what they're trying to do here is give people more time, because like, yeah, you might need more time on a scramble shot, whatever. That makes sense, and it comes from a good place. But I do think that reiterating, like, the thrower can't have any say in this, so everyone better make sure they're watching, or else the thrower's going to be calling you on courtesy violations left and right. it might end up slowing pace of play. What will definitely slow pace of play is the third most wild rule proposal, which is time extensions. So players get 2 time extensions per round, which basically means if
it's like
I'm
a timeout, but not.
Exactly. If I'm at my lie, and for whatever reason I think it's going to take me more than 45 seconds, I can call a time extension and get more time. If they don't use it, so if I don't call my time extension and I go over my 45 seconds, you as a card mate are required to call me to make me use one of my time extensions. So if I hit 45 seconds, you can be like, hey, you have to use your first time extension here because you've went over 45 seconds. So you now have to make me use 2.
I understand that.
So you can't use them both on the same time. But so basically if I get to like 45 and I'm like, you know what, time extension, I'm going to take more time on this shot. Or if I haven't called it, you call it on me, I get 2 per round. So basically what it did is now, instead of you go over 30 seconds, it's a time violation warning. You now have it go over 30 seconds. Because why would a player ever call time extension on themselves? If I'm going to go over, my card mate has to call it on me.
Yeah.
Why would I ever call it on myself? Because that doesn't make any sense. So instead, now Connor calls it on me. So instead of Connor saying time violation warning, Connor now says, hey, you have to use your time extension here. And then the second time Connor goes, hey, you have to use your time extension here. And then the third time is a time violation warning.
Yeah.
So it's like, well now I get 2 free time violations.
Buffer in there.
Yeah. And what's even funnier is apparently if you go over your time extension, it's just a warning. So like it basically now I can take over a minute to try to throw and still end on a warning instead of the time extension. What's the PDG's missing in my opinion here, because golf basically has 40 seconds for a player to hit more or less, but how it's enforced from what my quick reading last night did is how it's enforced is there is a pace of play clock that you're expected to, as your card, play at a certain pace, which is like 4 hours and like 20 minutes for a 4-man card. Golf's a longer sport. In disc golf, that'd probably be like 3 hours and some change, right? That's the pace you're expected to play. So that breaks down to a certain amount of time per hole. So you have to keep pace with the group in front of you. So what can end up happening is the marshal sitting back can look and say, we have a 3-hole gap. We need to go to this card and enforce the time. Mm-hmm. So they go to that card and can put players on the clock, which the PDGA has all that in place. What they don't have is a pace of play for the entire card. Because then what can happen is when you show up, you put players on the clock, you tell them like, hey, your group needs to pick up pace. You have 3-hole gap in front of you. You got to catch the card in front of you. Everyone needs to play a little faster. You're on the clock. I'm going to time you. You find out that Gannon Burr is using his time extensions and is now taking 1 minute and 45 seconds in the fairway. Mm-hmm. Boom. Now we figure out the problem, make him go faster. That's what the PDGA is missing, is the pace of play for a card rule, where if the whole card's playing slow, I'm pretty sure the whole card can be penalized for pace of play. So there's incentive to keep it up. Because what might happen is, like, let's say that you're off in the woods and took us a while to find your disc. We found your disc, your 45-second start. You need a time extension, whatever. Like, yeah, there's going to be situations where, yeah, it might take you a minute to throw a shot from way off in the woods. Mm-hmm. But it shouldn't also take me a minute to throw a 200-foot clear-up shot. Yeah. Right? So it's like, well, if you take a minute and I take 10 seconds, we're completely fine. Yeah. Versus if we both take our full 45, that's where pace of play for the whole card slows up. So like that's where I think a marshal can be the one enforcing this instead of players, because at the Pro Tour events you have a marshal. We've found out with Kristen's foot fault. You have a marshal out there that like all he needs to be doing is looking at the live scoring and be like, man, why on earth is Trevor's card 4 holes behind Connor's card? Let me go out there and put them on the clock and figure out what happened. Mm. Oh, I found out they lost a disc a few holes ago. That's why they're behind a little bit. Hey, guys, you have a 40-minute gap ahead of you. I need you to play faster to try to make up as much time as possible. I'm going to put you on the clock to make sure that happens. Mm. And you just walk with them for a few holes, make sure they pick up their pace. There you have it. Like, that's how I think the time and pace of play should be looked at, instead of, like, adding all these rules and stipulations in and making it more complex. I think could end up, if players actually try to enforce all of this, make it where they're not walking to their shot until they're done watching the shot before, because they have to make sure they don't get a courtesy violation for that. Then they walk over and they know I have 45 seconds now to figure all this up. And like, if everyone does that, it could end up making all the rounds take longer, which I think is the opposite of what they're trying to do. So once we have the full rules next week, we can actually look at all the like nitty gritty. And there's more rules than just those being proposed. So we can look at that too and get Trevor's reaction. But, Yeah, it was an interesting rule proposal from PDGA.
That is really interesting.
Time extensions. So now when you need to make a putt during a video instead of calling a timeout, you can be like, you know what, I need a time extension.
And how much is the time extension?
That's what I don't quite know. I'm sure Robert Leonard said it in the interview, but in the Disc Golf World Breakdown, it didn't say. So I don't know if it's another 15, if it's 30, if it doubles the time. I'm not sure. We'll find that out tomorrow when they post the article. But I'm not a huge fan of two of the three. The 30,
I'm
45.
definitely going to call time extensions on you guys.
Yeah, why not? That's a blast.
You're using your time extension right now.
Yeah. The 30, 45, 30, just give everyone 40 on everything. Like, we don't need to make it more complex, I don't think.
Yeah.
I get the intent. I mean, golf does have, like, they go up to 50 seconds if you're, like, the first one teeing on a par 3 or the first one. They have weird things like that, but, like, disc golf's not that complex.
No.
It's pretty straightforward. So I think 30 seconds was enough. Make it 40, call it even, whatever. You don't even need 30 seconds to putt.
There's also so much like subjectivity to like when are you addressing your lie. Yeah. I feel like if anything, there should be more rules regarding that. Like maybe whenever you step within a 15-foot radius of your disc, you've now officially started your time.
But what if it's a lost disc? You don't know.
It's true. That's very true. I think that the best way to do it is everyone is blindfolded all the time.
I like that.
And then you are allowed to take your blindfold off on the tee, and they say, you have 30 seconds now. And then now you're like, okay, this is what this hole looks like. Then you throw. After you throw, blindfold back on. But then you can't watch, then your courtesy violation.
Well, that's the other thing. Your teammates. That's the other thing that I think. Yeah, now you have a different problem.
And then you're blindfolded, you get taken into the woods to your crappy shot, and then you take your blindfold off, and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I get out of here? How much time do I have left?
That's where I think that they need to have more focus on pace of play as a group and less focus on pace of play as a person.
Yeah.
Because, like, you can also make up so much time if you walk faster in a fairway.
True.
And stuff like that, where, like, if your group is keeping pace with the group in front of you and the first group out keeps pace with whatever the Pro Tour determines is a good pace for that course or whatever, then you're not going to have problems. Because then if Cupcake Curtis is taking longer on a putt, but his whole card is walking fast and everyone else is playing quick, well, everyone's completely fine there.
Yeah.
It's a problem when it's, like, causing backups. Or you can also have a situation where players are only taking 20 seconds to throw, but they're walking at half the speed as someone who's taking 30 seconds to throw and walking fast. And it's like, well, what, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's where real problems are coming in with pace of play. So if you have the whole group feel the pressure of we have to keep pace with the group in front of us, then you can solve a lot of these problems without actually having to get nitty gritty with the whole rules. So.